Namaste friends, I welcome you all to my YouTube channel Thermal Talks. In previous presentations, we have understood an introduction to heat transfer and modes of heat transfer. Today, let us discuss what are the types of boundary conditions. We have already understood what is heat transfer and types of heat transfer. Today, let us understand how to quantify this heat transfer. Heat transfer is a vector quantity, which means it has both magnitude as well as direction. Therefore, we must specify both magnitude and direction in order to describe heat transfer of a particular system. When heat is removed from the system, we call it as a negative quantity, and when heat is added to the system, we call heat as a positive quantity. The driving force for any heat transfer is temperature difference, and larger the temperature difference, the larger the rate transfer. Some heat transfer problems in engineering require the determination of temperature distribution, the variation of temperature throughout the medium in order to calculate some quantities of interest, such as the local heat transfer rate, thermal expansion, and thermal stresses at some critical location in specified times. This can be done by choosing suitable coordinate system such as rectangular coordinates, cylindrical coordinates, or spherical coordinates. Like in rectangular coordinates, we define temperature or a point with respect to three directions of a coordinates x, y, z and time. For cylindrical coordinates, we require radius, one angle phi and z direction, and for spherical coordinates we need radius and two angles to specify particular point in the coordinate system. For undergraduate studies, we only consider rectangular coordinates or Cartesian coordinates for understanding the heat transfer processes. Now let us derive general three-dimensional heat conduction equation in Cartesian coordinates or rectangular coordinates. For that, I am going to assume a small volumetric element of dimension dx, dy, dz in direction x, y and z, and heat travels in all the 360 direction, but we are going to consider in three direction x, y, z. So the area of cross section for x direction is dy times dz, for y direction dz times dx, and for z direction dx times dy. So it's very important to know that in conduction the area which we consider is cross sectional area which is perpendicular to the heat flow. So let us write an energy balance equation for this small elementary volume, which is nothing but heat conducted in the element in time dt plus heat generated in the element in time dt is equal to rate of increase in internal energy per unit time plus work done per unit time. So here work done is considered as zero. Why? Because there is no change in volume taking place. So the entire equation one reduces to three major components: the heat conducted in the element, heat generated in the element, and the rate of increase in internal energy of the system. Now let's begin with heat conducted in element in time dt. There is a heat entering from face, left side face ABCD. We can write it from Fourier law of conduction, Qx is equal to minus Kx times dy dz into dou T by dou x. And heat is leaving the system from the face EFGH, which is nothing but Q of x plus dx is equal to Qx plus dou Qx by dou x into dx, which means we are using Taylor series of expansion for this, but we are neglecting higher order differentials. Now the heat accumulated in direction x is nothing but heat in minus heat out. It is going to be a mathematical deduction from here. Now what is heat in minus heat out? It is Qx minus Q of x plus dx. Substitute the values from above equation, and when we reduce it we'll get minus of dou Qx by dou x into dx. Now substitute value of Qx from heat in equation, we'll get this equation, and remove the constants dou y, dou z out. Finally we can get heat accumulated in x direction is nothing but partial differentiation of the term thermal conductivity of material in x direction into temperature gradient with respect to x direction into dx dy dz. As we have formulated heat accumulated equation in x direction, similarly we can formulate the equation in y direction as well as z direction. Now heat conducted in an element, we can write it by adding all these three equations in three directions, and we'll get this big equation which is representing the heat conducted in an element. As we have formulated an equation for heat conducted in an element, now let us write a equation for heat generated in an element. What is heat generation? When electricity is passed over a material or when there is a chemical reaction taking place, because of the impurities in the material, the heat will be generated within the material. So the heat generation is a volumetric phenomena of a material. So we are going to consider that, and we want to denote it as Qg. And now third part is the rate of increase in internal energy per unit time, which we can write it as mass into specific heat into temperature difference. Now we can write mass as density into volume, dx dy dz. Now we have formulated the equations for heat conducted, heat generated within the element, and rate of increase in internal energy. Let us add all these three equations. Now we have added all the three equations, and now divide all these three equations by dx dy dz. Now we will get the final three-dimensional unsteady heat conduction equation for non-homogeneous material with internal heat generating. Now this is a very important equation when it comes to heat conduction. Now, so we have formulated a three-dimensional heat conduction equation, but for academic studies we don't use this big equation to solve numericals. So we have reduced this big equation into a number of cases. So case number one is, we assume the material is homogeneous, means the thermal conductivity of the material remains same throughout the material. So kx, ky, kz becomes k. So let us remove this constant k from the equation and divide this whole equation by k. Now we will reduce it to this equation, and at the end you can see 1 over k by rho into c. We call this as alpha, or thermal diffusivity of a system, which is a very important property which we are going to study in transient or unsteady state heat conduction in future videos. Case number 2 is we assume the material to be homogeneous and there is no internal heat generation happening, which is a Fourier equation where Q term is removed. Now case number 3, we assume the material to be homogeneous again, but we assume it to be a steady state heat transfer process, means we are not considering time, so dou T becomes 0. So the right hand side of the equation goes out and we call this as a Poisson equation. Case number 4, material is again homogeneous, steady state conduction, and there is no heat generation. We call it as a Laplace equation. Now Q term and the internal energy terms reduces to 0 and we get only temperature distribution terms. After that we have case number 5. Now it is a one-dimensional unsteady state. So one-dimensional means there is a temperature gradient either in x direction, y direction or z direction. For convenience I have taken x direction here, dou square t by dou x square, and there is a heat generation Qg, and since it's an unsteady state the time factor has come into picture. And last one, the again one dimensional steady state homogeneous isotropic material without heat generation. Now there is no time, there is no heat generation, there is only temperature gradient. Now for academics we use this only one dimensional equations to solve numericals for our academic studies. Before we go further with heat conduction problems, we must describe how to state such problems so they can be really solved. This is particularly important in approaching more complicated problems of transient and multi-dimensional heat conduction problems. We know if temperature distribution depends on time and the spatial coordinates, then we call it as a unsteady or transient heat transfer. However, we call it steady state heat transfer when temperature depends on spatial coordinates or position, and it is independent of time. In simply, I must say I have a material of thickness L and thermal conductivity K, and I want to solve heat transfer problems, but it is very difficult to solve the problem without relevant information. A well-posed heat conduction problem is the one in which all relevant information is needed to obtain the solution. And what are these relevant information? These are temperature distribution, heat flux, and convective heat transfer coefficient. These informations are called boundary conditions, which are applied on the surface of the medium. It is necessary to know the values of temperature, heat flux, and convective heat transfer coefficient at the surface of the medium, or these must be calculated analytically, numerically, or experimentally so that heat conduction problems can be solved. There is nothing as a definition to boundary conditions, but it can be understood by this statement. I will mention these boundary conditions in future presentations when I start solving some numericals. Then we can understand these simple conditions better. These informations are applied as boundary conditions to obtain solutions. There are three important boundary conditions we have to apply to solve any heat conduction problem. So boundary condition of first kind or Dirichlet conditions are the one wherein a constant surface temperature is specified at the boundary surface, which means I have a material and both the sides of the surface is been specified with a temperature. Then only I'll be able to solve a heat conduction problem. So boundary condition of first kind is where the temperature is specified at the surface, or temperature is a constant value which is given. Now, second boundary condition, also called Neumann conditions, wherein a constant surface heat flux is specified at the boundary. So here we have two cases wherein finite heat flux, the simple example would be heating coil, where I am supplying known amount of energy to the material. So I am supplying heat flux at one surface. Or there may be a case where I am insulating the surface, I am not allowing the heat to go away. So either it can be finite heat flux or it can be insulated surface. So it is important for me to address a surface or a boundary condition by heat flux. Then we call it as a boundary condition of second kind. And the third one is Robin or mixed conditions, wherein a convective heat transfer coefficient or convective heat transfer condition is specified at the boundary, which means the value of H is specified between fluid and surface interaction. So as we can see here, when we have a value of temperature, a value of heat flux, or convective heat transfer coefficient, we will be able to solve heat conduction problems or heat transfer problems for that matter. So it is very important to have these values in the problem statement. Then only we will be able to solve the problem. We will be able to understand these boundary conditions in future videos when I solve a numericals. When I solve a numericals, I will try to remind you the boundary conditions used in these problems. So that is it for today. I hope you have liked the presentation. I request you to subscribe to my channel and share this video among your friends. See you then, till next time.